Help me reach 2,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. When you love someone, you start believing that even their worst moments have some hidden goodness behind them. That's what I used to tell myself about Emma. We'd been together for 3 years, 3 quiet, steady years that I thought meant something real. I wasn't the loud, charming type. I didn't sweep her off her feet in grand gestures. I just showed up every day for everything. Birthdays, bad days, those nights she cried for no reason. I was always there. So when she invited me to her friend's engagement party, I thought it was a good sign. A step closer, maybe. I wore my best shirt, brought a small gift for her friend, even helped set up the place before guests arrived. Everything felt light, warm, until it didn't. Someone asked her half-jokingly, "So Emma, when are you going to introduce your guy to your parents?" The table burst into laughter. I waited for her to say something sweet, even playful. Instead, she smirked, looked at me and said, "Introduce him? Please." The room went silent for half a second, then everyone laughed again. Everyone except me. It was one of those moments where sound feels distorted, where every laugh echoes too long, and you can't tell if it's coming from across the room or inside your head. She brushed it off, patted my shoulder, said, "Oh, come on, don't take it so seriously." But I did. Because that wasn't just a joke, it was an announcement. A reminder that I wasn't someone she saw standing next to her family, her parents, or her future. On the drive home, she kept humming along to the radio like nothing happened. I stared out the window, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just her sense of humor. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But a quiet voice inside me whispered the truth. If you have to beg someone to see your worth, you've already lost it. The days after that party felt hollow. We still texted, still met for dinner, still smiled for pictures, but something had cracked. Every laugh felt rehearsed. Every hug half-hearted. I kept waiting for her to bring it up, to say, "Hey, I'm sorry. That wasn't right." But she never did. Instead, she grew more distant. Shorter replies, sudden headaches, busy weekends. I told myself she just needed space, but space started to look a lot like disinterest. One night, while we sat at her place watching a movie, she got a text. She turned her phone face down so quickly, it was impossible not to notice. When I asked who it was, she said, "Just a friend." That word friend started showing up too often. Friends from work, friends she used to know. Friends she couldn't stop smiling about when they texted her. I didn't want to become that paranoid boyfriend, so I stayed quiet. But silence has a cost. It eats away at your self-respect, one unanswered question at a time. Then one evening, I came to surprise her with dinner. Her car was outside, lights on, music faint through the walls. But when I knocked, no one opened. After a few minutes, I tried calling. She didn't pick up. Through the half-open blinds, I saw her silhouette, and another. A man's voice, low, confident. He said something that made her laugh, that same laugh from the engagement party. The one that used to be mine. I didn't go inside. I just stood there long enough to understand that sometimes betrayal doesn't need confirmation. It announces itself in small humiliations long before the final blow. I left the food on her doorstep and walked away. The next day, she texted like nothing had happened. "Sorry I missed you last night. Fell asleep early." That was the moment I realized the truth. She wasn't cruel. She was careless. And sometimes that's worse. Because cruelty at least acknowledges your existence. Carelessness erases it altogether. So I stopped asking, stopped explaining, stopped showing up. And she didn't notice. Not for days. Not even for weeks. When someone slowly fades from your life, you expect a grand ending, a fight, a tearful goodbye, some kind of closure. But in reality, it just stops. The calls end. The texts dry up. And the silence becomes so normal that it's hard to remember what noise felt like. That's how it was with Emma. I didn't block her, didn't make a scene, didn't even announce my absence. I simply stepped back. No more good morning texts. No more checking in. No more waiting for her to remember I existed. And for a while she didn't. Weeks went by and I focused on myself. Gym, work, friends I'd ignored while trying to hold her world together. I laughed again, genuinely this time. Then out of nowhere she called. Her voice was too calm, too casual. "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay?" I almost laughed. Everything was finally okay. because I had stopped caring whether she understood what she'd done. But she didn't stop there. The next day, she showed up outside my office, pretending it was coincidence. She looked different, hair tied back, eyes searching. "You just disappeared," she said, half smiling like she expected me to joke back. I didn't. I just looked at her and said, "You once laughed at the idea of introducing me to your parents. Now I understand why." For the first time, she didn't have a quick comeback. Just silence. The kind that weighs heavier than words. I could see it in her eyes, the sudden realization that she'd taken something for granted that wasn't coming back. She reached out, maybe to touch my arm, maybe to say sorry. I took a step back. "You don't have to explain," I said quietly. "You already did, that night at the party." And then I walked away. She never called again after that, and I never looked back. Some people think closure comes from confrontation, but the truth is, sometimes it's just peace. The kind that comes when you stop being the punchline in someone else's story and start writing your own.